Hello and welcome to this video mini-series called From Trauma to Triumph. My name is Jo and I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And if I'm really honest, I didn't deal with it properly until a few years ago. When I finally did face it and deal with it, that's when I really began to heal and finally I could move my life forward. My ordeal happened 18 years ago, and I only told my parents about it a few years ago. And then just 3 days later, I did a Facebook Live, which was really the first time I spoke out about my ordeal publicly. Since then, I speak about overcoming sexual assault on a regular basis, and I've retrained so I can help other survivors to empower themselves and to start the healing process too. Last year, I was really alarmed by statistics that were released from Rape Crisis and the Crown Prosecution Service. So, according to Rape Crisis, there is a huge waiting list for counselling support for survivors, with the waiting list being from 6 months all the way up to 2 years. And even in some areas of the UK, people are being turned away from this support because the waiting list is so long. After those statistics were released, the Crown Prosecution Service also released some really startling statistics where conviction rates are at the lowest that they have ever been. This shouldn't happen. I am a huge advocate for survivors being able to have access to support to help them heal from their trauma and have support through the prosecution service if that's the way that they choose to go. So, because of all of that, I'm doing a mini-series of 4 videos to share some helpful ideas to any survivor that is going through this in the hope that it helps. Now, I won't be going into things too deeply because there is a lot to say on this subject, and I'll record some separate videos about those. But I want this mini-series to be the beginning of a helpful guide. When I was raped, the internet wasn't like it is today, and things weren't spoken about as freely as they are now. I know that if I had access to something like this video series when it happened to me, I would have saved a lot of time, I wouldn't have missed out on so many opportunities, and I wouldn't have lost friends. The effects of sexual assault are devastating and they are life-changing, and emotional responses vary from person to person. Now, I remember being in complete shock and I felt totally numb. To the world outside, I put a mask on and pretended that everything was all right, even at work where I had to face my perpetrator every single day. But at home, I was a complete mess. I went completely mute for a couple of days after my ordeal, and actually, I don't remember much. It's really important to know that shock and numbness may occur soon after a sexual assault. Survivors may experience feelings of disbelief or denial about what happened. Survivors may feel emotionally detached or drained, and at times may be unaware of what is happening around them. Some other reactions to the emotional shock can include things like crying uncontrollably, laughing nervously, withdrawing or claiming to feel nothing or to be fine. Survivors often may feel overwhelmed to the point of not knowing how to feel or what to do. A huge 94% of women who are raped experience post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms in the 2 weeks following the assault. This is normal. It is a reaction to the fear, the feeling of loss of control and vulnerability that you experience following any unexpected and shocking event. There are so many feelings and questions that happen after you have experienced a trauma like this. I remember feeling completely overwhelmed and in complete shock directly afterwards. You see, I was raped in my own bedroom by someone who at the time I called a friend. I remember walking out of my house straight after it happened and going for a walk in the early hours of the morning and actually feeling safer on the streets than I did in my own home. I thought, well, the worst thing had just happened to me, so what else could happen? So you may ask yourself, why did this happen to me? And feel as though no one understands. You may feel as though you're going crazy, and you may even feel as though it actually wasn't that big of a deal and that you just imagined it. I went through all of those scenarios and many more, and that's why I wanted to create this mini-series in the hope that I can help others. It's important for you to know that you are brave and you are courageous. And in my next video, I will discuss my first lesson, which is all about self-care. So I'll see you again in part 2 of From Trauma